Alright, Rich Van Tassel back with you, continuing on with our Week 11 recap. The Pittsburgh Steelers ending their 4-game losing streak with a 24-9 victory over the Cleveland Browns. The hapless Cleveland Browns, who dropped to 0-11. Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers, 23 of 36, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Le'Veon Bell, 28 for 146, running the ball, that's 5.2 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Antonio Brown, top receiver, 8 receptions, 76 yards. Le'Veon Bell, 8 for 55. Eli Rogers, 4 for 20. Javon Hargrave recovered a fumble. Le'Veon Bell fumbled. It was not lost. The team had 8 sacks. Yes, 8 total. James Harrison had one of them. I believe it made him the Steelers' all-time leader in sacks. Stephon Tuitt had 2.5. Arthur Moats, 1.5. Artie Burns had an interception. Chris Boswell, 3 for 3 in his field goals. For the Cleveland Browns, 2 quarterbacks got action in this game. Cody Kessler, 7 of 14. No touchdowns, 1 interception. Josh McCown, 14 of 27. 118 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The team altogether 21 of 41 for 176, 1 touchdown to 1 interception. The running game not very good. It just wasn't there today. Josh McCown 2 carries, 11 yards, 5.5 yards per rush. Duke Johnson Jr. 2 for 10, 5 yards per rush. Isaiah Crowell 8 for 10, 1.3 yards per rush. Altogether 13 of 33, which is 2.5 yards per rush. Terrell Pryor, senior top receiver, 5 for 97 yards. He's been a nice bright spot for a really bad team. Duke Johnson Jr., 3 receptions, 46 yards. Corey Coleman, 4 for 39. Gary Barnidge, 2 for 23. He had a touchdown. Josh McCown lost the fumble. There were no sacks, no interceptions. And Cody Parkey, 1 for 1 in his field goal. So the Steelers got to 5-5 with the Ravens losing. They are now tied for first place in that division. Probably not where Pittsburgh expected themselves to be after 10. As far as their record, they probably expected to be right at first place, which they are. But they still got everything to play for these next 6 games. Let's see what they do the rest of the way. They relied heavily on Le'Veon Bell today, just over 200 yards of total offense. I'd expect a lot more of that moving forward. For the Cleveland Browns, they're just a god-awful team. I mean, they may go 0-16, and they would be a lot worse than that Detroit Lions team that went 0-16. That Lions team was at least competitive in a few games. Cleveland, I can't remember since that game against Baltimore that they've been competitive in any. Buffalo Bills get to 5-5 with a 16-12 victory over the falling fast Cincinnati Bengals, who dropped to 3-6-1. Tyrod Taylor, 19 of 27, 166 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Mike Gillislee, top rusher, 14 for 72, 5.1 yards per carry. Tyrod Taylor, 9 for 39, 4.3 yards per carry. LaShawn McCoy, 5 for 33, 6.6 yards per carry. He had a touchdown. He left the game with a thumb injury. Jonathan Williams, 4 carries for 26 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. The team overall 34 carries, 183 yards. That's 5.4 yards per rush and the touchdown. 4 guys carried the ball 4 times or more. All went over 4 yards per carry. 3 of them went over 5. 2 of them over 6.5 yards per rush. So very good job running the ball by Buffalo today. Brandon Tate, 2 for 48. Robert Woods, 3 for 41. Charles Clay, 5 for 23 in the receiving game. John Miller recovered a fumble. LaShawn McCoy fumbled. It was not lost. They had 1 sack that was split. The Buffalo Bills did. Marcel Darius and Adolphus Washington. Stephon Gilmore had 2 interceptions, returned them both for a combined 56 yards. Brandon Tate, 2 kick returns for 66 yards, 33 yards per carry, or for a return that is, and they were both 33 yards, split them right down the middle. Dan Carpenter, 3 for 3 in his field goal attempts for the Cincinnati Bengals. Andy Dalton, 24 of 43, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jeremy Hill running the ball, 16 carries, 62 yards, 3.9 yards per rush. Giovanni Bernard, 7 of 21. Tyler Boyd, top receiver, 6 for 54. He had the touchdown. Giovanni Bernard, 5 for 40. Tyler Eifert, 3 for 37. Brandon LaFell, 4 for 32. A.J. Green did not have a catch in this game. He left the game early, was carted off the field. Let's see what that injury is moving forward. Adam Jones recovered a fumble. Andy Dalton fumbled. It was not lost. Giovanni Bernard recovered a fumble. 2 sacks. One of them was split between Michael Johnson and Carlos Dunlap. Vontez Bursovic had the other. Drake Kirkpatrick had an interception. Alex Erickson had 1 kick return for 36 yards. Pretty good. Mike Nugent did not make a field goal. However, he missed a critical extra point. That's the second time he's missed a big extra point this year. For the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be tough to get a wild card spot. Certainly, they had to get this victory. It meant a lot more to them. Cincinnati, it meant a lot too. They're really in trouble now. But that division, they still have an outside shot in because the top two teams are 5-5. 500 or even a 7-8-1 in this case for Cincinnati may get that division. We'll have to see. It's unlikely, but they still at least have a shot. Buffalo, I wouldn't say they have to win out. They got 6 left. Bare minimum, they have to go 4-2 and probably 5-1 to have any realistic shot. But they got things started today. They were able to run the ball very effectively against a good Cincinnati Bengals defensive line. We went over the numbers, how many guys carried, how their yards per carry were. So we'll see what Buffalo does the rest of the way. Certainly as the weather gets colder, a good running attack is much more beneficial to you. But I would expect Tyrod Taylor is going to have to make a few more plays through the air. We discussed that in the game preview with how devoid they've been of a big air attack since Sammy Watkins went down. But when you run the ball the way they were able to today, you don't always need that. But I think they would need a little bit more to have any realistic shot to really get those wins they need the rest of the way to make the playoffs. And they could even go 5-1 and potentially miss. So it's not looking good for the Buffalo Bills, but it had to start with a victory today. Tampa Bay, a surprise victory for me. They moved to 4-1 on the road, 5-5 overall. However, that's really disappointing to be 4-1 on the road, yet you're 500 altogether over the Kansas City Chiefs, 19-17. Chiefs dropped to 7-3, 4-1 now at home, and as we just discussed with Buffalo having a chance at the wild card, certainly this loss by Kansas City, a surprise loss, opens the door just a little bit, and all the other teams as well. Jameis Winston, 24 of 39, 331 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Doug Martin, 24 carries, 63 yards, 2.6 yards per rush. Peyton Barber, 4 for 22. The team altogether 34 of 116, 3.4 yards per rush. Mike Evans is the top receiver, 6 receptions, 105 yards. Cecil Shorts, the third, 5 for 62. Russell Shepard, 3 for 54. Gerald McCoy recovered a fumble. Jameis Winston fumbled twice, lost one of them. Doug Martin recovered a fumble. They had no sacks. Chris Conte had an interception that came in the red zone. He returned it 53 yards. It might have even happened in the end zone. So it was a big play in this game. Roberto Aguayo, 4 for 4 in his field goal attempts. For the Chiefs, Alex Smith, 24 of 31, 261 yards. It was a good game. He had a touchdown, but of course that critical interception we just discussed. Spencer Ware, top rusher, 17 carries, 69 yards, 4.1 yards per rush. Alex Smith, 2 for 10, 5 yards per rush. He had a touchdown. The team altogether 21 of 82, 3.9 yards per rush. That includes Travis Kelce, who had a negative 5-yard rush. I don't know why Travis Kelce is getting a run, but it is what it is. Travis Kelce was the top receiver, 7 for 108. Tyreek Hill, 4 for 53. Charkandrick West, 3 for 42. Not as many receivers caught passes as I'd expect. 6 guys did. It's not bad in that regard, but with the Andy Reid offense, you expect a lot more distribution. But you look at the numbers, 7 receptions for Kelce, 4 for Tyreek Hill, Charkandrick West, 3. Chris Conley, 4. Albert Wilson, 4. So not totally surprising there. Steven Nelson recovered a fumble. Eric Fisher lost a fumble. I don't know how Eric Fisher's losing a fumble. He's an offensive lineman. Chris Conley fumbled. It was not lost. Spencer Ware recovered a fumble. Only 1 sack. Sacks 1. It was not D Ford. I don't know what it is. A team sack, so I don't know how that works exactly. Niall Davis, 2 returns, 42 yards. D'Anthony Thomas, 2 for 42, 21 yards per return, so nothing great in the return game. Cairo Santos, 1 for 1 in his field goals. So, Kansas City, very difficult loss for them, especially in their chase for the division crown in the NFC West. It's very competitive out there. However, they are still looking okay for a wild card, but like we said, that opens the door a little bit. Tampa Bay quietly has gotten within a game of the Atlanta Falcons. They've got to start winning at home. They weren't finding the end zone in this game. They found it when it mattered, but they were settling for a lot of field goals. That'll be something that they'll have to correct. but they are certainly right there. Jameis Winston did have a fumble but no interceptions. Of course, we know he has to limit his turnovers in every game that he plays. The Minnesota Vikings with a 30-24 victory over the Arizona Cardinals, snapping their 4-game losing streak, where the Vikings, they moved to 6-4, are now tied with Detroit on top of the NFC North. Arizona 4-5-1. Carson Palmer 20 of 38, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. David Johnson 22 carries, 103 yards, 4.7 yards per rush. Andre Ellington 5 for 21, 4.2 yards per rush. The team altogether 28 of 135, 4.8 yards per rush. The numbers would have been over 4 yards per carry. Of course, they were buoyed just a bit by an 11-yard carry by Carson Palmer. Larry Fitzgerald 6 for 63, receiving. David Johnson 7 for 57, a touchdown. Jermaine Gresham 2 for 33, a touchdown. Deion Buchanan recovered a fumble. Jermaine Gresham fumbled. It was not lost. 1 sack. It was Alex Okafor. No interceptions. Britton Golden had a kick return of 49 yards. Chandler Cantazero made his only field goal attempt. For the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Bradford, not a lot of yards through the air, 20 of 28, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jerick McKinnon running the ball, 16 carries for 44 yards, 2.8 yards per rush. Matt Asiata, 5 for 20, 4 yards per rush. He had a touchdown. The team altogether 24 of 72, 3 yards per rush. And the touchdown, Ronnie Hillman had 2 carries for 9 yards. They're looking for anything. It's still not very good in the run department from Minnesota, but 24 of 72 is at least something. I mean, they were having some really, really scant games running the ball this far since Adrian Peterson went down. Adam Thielen, top receiver, 5 for 65, 1 touchdown. Cordero Patterson, 4 for 53. More from Patterson in a moment. Stephon Diggs, 6 for 37. Sam Bradford lost a fumble. Minnesota, no, it says no, and so I don't know what the deal is with the box score. We already know Carson Palmer threw 2. One of them was returned 100 yards. I believe it was Xavier Rhodes for a touchdown. I don't know who had the other. Cordero Patterson returned a kick, 104 yards for a touchdown. So 200-yard non-offensive plays for touchdowns for Minnesota in this game. Certainly you need things like that when you have a 4-game losing streak. Kai Forbath 1 for 1. So Minnesota back in it. We called it when we did the game preview. I had said maybe a halfback pass, whatever. They ran like a reverse flea flicker in this game. I knew something was coming to get this offense rolling, so you definitely would have heard it here first had you watched the videos on Sunday in the game previews. As for the Arizona Cardinals, they were in big-time trouble, a team with high expectations this year. Too many turnovers, defense not getting the stops when they need it. They had some penalties, couple questionable calls. However, they got one late in the game that extended the final drive for them. They were not able to cash it in. That was a questionable call there. We certainly would have been talking about it more had Arizona been able to go down the field and scored a touchdown for the victory here. But they are 4-5-1. The division not looking good for them. As we do this video, Seattle's winning the game. So a Seattle victory would really put them behind the 8 ball there and leave them with few options moving forward. The wild card may be falling out of reach. Minnesota could win their division but could be in a wild card race, and that's a game you just played and lost against a potential wild card opponent, and this is the only game they're going to play against the NFC North this year. The rest are going to be against the South. In that regard, they play the one East game. I can't remember who that is. That would be the Washington Redskins. They're playing this year. The Redskins may be a wild card opportunity, and I think those two have already played. So certainly, in a bad way, are the Arizona Cardinals, a team with high expectations. Alright, so we will be coming back when these now 4 o'clock games go final. That's the rest of the 1 o'clock games. Be sure to stay tuned for that when we get that going for you. Remember, we appreciate all subscriptions, and we will see you in a little bit. Thank you.